Alright guys, here we're going to talk about the Twilight Zone, Season 3, Episode 28.
Now we are back in the territory of stuff that I think I know more from parody than I know from, like, the originals.
Okay.
I don't know that for a fact, but I know that Bender had a bunch of little people at one point.
There's been little people have been a popular thing across all
lots of stuff,
things,
right?
Yeah.
There's been lots of things, but specifically here with, like, building a statue and, like, getting mad with power, I feel like I've seen that in enough dumb little places.
Yeah, the
where
Simpsons
I think
did it
people
before
were like,
Futurama did it, and so on and so
like,
on.
Hey, something's up with this.
So my only issue with this episode, really, aside from it
only
feels,
one.
Well, it's a large issue.
Sure.
So, and this is kind of true with like anything. Just scale is the biggest problem.
Sure.
And I think you can, just by saying scale, you can cover a lot of the issues because things don't make sense.
As a fat man, I hate scales.
Well, scales are the devil. So I like the premise in general because it does have that classic Twilight Zone vibe. You have a person who comes across a civilization of tiny humans that are in our exact image almost because they're producing things that we have and homes that we
fucking
see.
Tiny trucks on this asteroid.
Yeah.
And it's got the Twilight Zone math where it's like, I'm doing this, it's great or whatever, but really you're just a little thing in a thing, or the cycle continues. It has that whole thing going
it
for
wraps about.
Yeah.
It has the twist, the no, the horror, whatever. So like all those things check off for like, okay, appropriate Twilight Zone episode.
Computer's good, human's good, but what if computer's bad and human's bad? Right? It has the
But like it wasn't like this is an advanced civilization. They seem like they're just humans that are small.
Maybe,
because we have a thing where they carve this statue, which in a day, he's like, there was 1,000 of them. Even if he was wrong and there was 1,000,000 of them.
I know.
It's a statue the size of him. It is bigger than anything they have made. Like, everything they have is like being seen through like a microscope, unless you're cutting to the POV of his foot, and then things are much larger because they have to be for the scene.
I was going to say, yes, nothing's that high because it's a matte painting.
Yeah.
And it's this horrible effect that I'm glad they didn't show more than they showed or whatever.
But they cut to him stepping on like a little building, and that building then is like far too big to make sense.
No, I know, exactly.
So like that's my whole scale problem, and scale is hard with little things.
No, and like because you were thinking of like there was like a tiny truck in like one of the folds of his hand.
You couldn't even tell what it was. It was like a pill from your eye, and then you zoom in, it's a truck. But
then you're like, okay,
building.
So think of a guy who'd be in that truck. So think that's you, and how big would that guy's statue be compared to you? That's a statue so big, it's like the space elevator or something
Bigger.
for like Earth or something like that.
I was trying to picture if I was that guy's size. Like, what would I even see looking at the horizon at a thing this big? I'm like, I don't even think I could see the whole thing. I think I would see, like, up to his ankle, and that's, like, as high as I could see. Like,
right? I don't know.
Right?
I don't know.
Because just picture...
We can see the moon, so I don't know.
No, but we can see the moon because the moon is, like, far enough away, and it is a bright thing on like, a dark... like, swash of life. If you were to, it's like kind of like being at the base of the Empire State Building, you can't see the top of the Empire State Building. And this is something way bigger than the Empire State Building. Like, I think you could not actually see it.
Never been at the base of the Empire State Building.
Well, any skyscraper for that matter.
Yeah.
It's irrelevant. It's just something to say. But this man, because, like, what is a skyscraper?
No,
let's say it's a mile tall, and like most are not. This man, based on the size of their foot, which would be like a microscope like sighting thing, they would be so gigantic.
Now you would think it would like start getting foggy because it's just so far and it's dropping off for them. The atmosphere is like interfering or something like that. I have no idea. That I don't think these details are what we're meant to consider specifically.
How are they even communicating? He addresses. Oh, we talked and like they used math, and I was like, okay, that's cool. That's the thing I've heard before.
That's so dumb.
But the way he then is just yelling to them and things are happening and it doesn't make any sense.
That's the whole point. Like the whole like we spoke the universal language of mathematics. That's great, but you can't then like use that to like insult them and yell at them. Like that doesn't make any sense at all. That's like such a weird. It's like the other episode where the guy's talking about cryptography or something like that. We're like, oh, you're just reading words. This doesn't make any sense. You're just trying to explain the way this thing. No, I don't know what how this should have been done better or something like that.
Well,
but I agree with you.
If you think about the conversation being no problem, and he could actually talk to them easily with like a can and a string. Let's say that, right? He stays on a barren planet where even if he eats all the food they have provided, he would survive like a meal and a half, maybe.
That was my first thing, where he was like, "I ate most of the, most of the forest on Tuesday," or something like that. And it's like, okay, well, what's the long-term strategy here, or whatever? No, like they should have been more alien, or there should have been some weird way to communicate. There should have been some explanation for like they can do amazing things. They made this fucking statue. That makes no sense, right? That makes no sense, Bob. And then you're like, oh my god, right? Not just like, oh, they worked really hard.
And then when we see them bringing down the statue with the ropes, you're like, those ropes are bigger than your civilization. How are you pulling those ropes? Where did those come from? The fact that there were like 30 of them, you're like, that would take your whole like oh, I need 60 generations of people just stitching a rope.
Well, and if they were like little tiny, I don't know, like you wouldn't want to use insect things, but if they were like very alien, you'd be like, oh, we don't know how it works. But
maybe they're strong. Yeah.
But he literally says like, look at this little fucking truck.
Yes.
You're like, what? Yeah, it's weird.
Think about how, and they pulled down, even they used all the machinery they've ever made as a society. It shouldn't be able to move a statue the size of a person. Our person.
Of a human.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. And like,
so the scale just takes you out of every aspect of this episode.
Like a lot of that you have to take in stride to just like get the point of it or whatever. But this is an example of something like for that time period's audience, you had to show a little truck.
Yeah.
How do you communicate that, like, they're just little people making high-pitched noise? We'll show a matte painting of, like, another place on the floor. Like, what? It's horrible. And then we'll show a tiny truck, and we'll build him a statue, and he'll be like, ha-ha! I'm the professor from Lost in Space guy, or whatever. Like
the statue thing, though, is so dumb because it's like they had to have moved a rock big enough to be carved into that statue to that area, or were to presume that they like molded clay.
Yeah. I picture a bunch of dudes in tiny overalls with tiny trowels and tiny buckets, just slowly like making it the gigantic. It's like it's literally crazy.
And which is, they may never even have seen him in that outfit. Like that was the first time we saw him in that outfit.
Exactly. He's like, I posed with this dumb helmet on. Yes, no, it's super goofy. It's super like.
And then he shoots it like
it's like a relic of an old time or whatever.
Like best thing they've ever made, and you shoot it in the fucking head. Why?
So, I forgot the ending of this one, so I thought, and like I didn't forget this ending. I just thought this ending was part of a different episode or something like that. It's weird or whatever. I didn't realize this was all the same thing.
You crushed it. That
yeah, like the big people. I thought there was something where there were like kids playing or something, and they accidentally crush a guy in like a similar circumstance or whatever. But what
could be another episode.
That's neither here nor there. The point is that when he shoots the statue, in my head I'm like, oh, is like this what makes them angry? Where they're like, yo, like what the hell? We're trying to do right by you. And like you're like blowing up statues, and the statue fell and killed all these people. But the episode doesn't establish enough to even communicate that fully or whatever, right? So there's no.
And with the amount of space they freely walk, and he rolls around on the ground and stuff.
I know.
Like the civilization is small.
Yes.
Like it's not this large thing. It doesn't even make sense that it could be a real civilization because of how small it is, and at the bottom of a canyon. Like if there's moisture, it must rain. Wouldn't they just be dead? Like.
Well, and they're selling it like they're so small that this is their whole thing. He zooms in on like a dock. This like 2 inches of water is like the Mississippi for them. It's this crazy thing where you're like, okay, no, I think we've destroyed this episode. Try again, Rod Serling. No, I don't. It's like
I didn't hate the episode, but the monologue wasn't super powerful. Him going crazy didn't really get sold for me. The other gentleman who wasn't the crazy guy kind of struck me as he reminded me, like he's not, but he reminded me of the three-eyed guy from the diner.
That could have been him.
I don't believe it was, but he had a reminder. No,
I liked his performance a lot. I liked him shitting on that guy like constantly, and his like delivery was old timey in the way that I like and all that stuff. But yeah, right, like it's in service of this whole thing that's kind of goofy in like this day and age or whatever. Because there's I love a lot of movies about communicating with strange races and doing stuff or whatever.
Had this whole planet been little people, I think it would have been better. I think them being just in that little the little pocket, I think hurt it a little bit for me too.
No, like imagine like he befriends them. The other guy thinks he's crazy, but it turns out like when their rocket landed, they like destroyed this this like important place where like their princess was or whatever, and now they want to put someone on trial, and he's like doing like the Loki thing of being like, no, I'm on your side. He's a monster. Yes, we like should put him on trial. Some like weird thing.
If they were like the
what's
size
going
of
on,
mice,
Jeffrey?
if this was a Gulliver's folly thing, like that, this would have been better.
And you could like interact.
Because then you could actually have done something.
Exactly.
Them being too small made this harder to make, harder to believe, harder to
Yeah.
sell. The
Well,
plot weird.
And the whole point of it is that he goes mad with power and his like faux godhood or something like that,
Yeah.
right? But then once we loop back around to give you like the mindfuck ending, those guys are not mad with power at all. They're like ambivalent or like you know.
They have the
oblivious.
eyes of a hawk
Yeah.
because he reaches down through like a cavern
this
and
shit?
like grabs
Well,
them and hears them or somehow even knows he's there.
He's like bigger to them. You know,
Yes, yes.
He is like a mouse.
But I
to
think
them.
that's also an issue with the scale where
Yeah.
they needed that for that.
No,
purpose.
and it like communicates this idea though that like, oh, see, you went mad with power and you were like intentionally abusing these guys. You better watch out because someone might accidentally abuse you. Like it doesn't have like you need.
There's always a bigger fish. Is the
Yes, but upon further inspection, like it's not really teaching him. You know the lesson necessarily.
well,
the same degree.
He died,
It's
so
not
he
like a
couldn't learn
perfect
the lesson. No, but the
Yes,
lesson
yes,
is like leave well enough alone and you'll be fine.
Yes. No, like the best way to sum it up is what you just said. Like there's always a bigger fish, so like don't feel like you can exert power over like other things or something like that. But I like it better when like the motivations are like the same because he wasn't accidentally hurting them. He was intentionally hurting them. Right.
I do think that second group of people, the two gentlemen, while they also looked like twins or something.
I was just gonna say
very
the same
similar.
guy twice.
I think that was hilarious, just how off the cuff and they didn't care
Yeah.
at all. It
Huh.
was oh yeah, there's other life forms. All right, so how do we get off this rock? Like they didn't give a. You think they're the other ones? No, there's probably only one. Like
No, why would there be more than one? He's got a little uniform on. I don't know about intergalactic relations or whatever. He just kill people.
and he's just like throws the body back.
Throw rocks down. Yeah, no. This would have been very impressive back in the day, but yeah, like it's the space age. You don't know that it's an option to have these giant people. Your rocket was already big. It's like a shitty little rock planet. Like
Yeah.
how big is their rocket?
Must be
It's
gigantic.
like sticking up, tiny thing.
Well,
Just
that's the funny thing is that like this whole little civilization is inside just a crevice in this
Yeah.
canyon, and then they are just like a footprint in like another canyon, and then it'll go once more and there's another canyon.
Yes, you see, the whole universe is actually just one skin cell on some giant's fingernail.
It's very possible.
And today he's got the clippers.
But yeah, so this episode was
Yeah.
it was okay.
I think that it has iconic like imagery, and this is something people have parodied or whatever and all that stuff, but maybe doesn't quite have the impact the way some of the other ones have held up.
I think it hits all my qualifications for like what is a Twilight Zone episode, but it isn't one of the better ones for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys, that's our thoughts on this episode. Let us know in the comments what you thought about it. Don't die in a fire, and we'll see you next time.
Hello, internets. I just love watching JustDaggers. If you've enjoyed this video as much as I have, click that subscribe button. Peace out, homies.